Ethan had always liked the quiet. The hum of the space station, the soft blinking of monitors, and the rhythmic beeping of machines became a kind of music he could live with. Orbiting the distant planet Arden 5, the research station felt like a small world of its own. Most of the crew were in their rooms or labs at this hour, but Ethan enjoyed the silence. It gave him space to think, to fix the circuits that sometimes went wrong, and to dream about the stars he watched through the station's observation window. Tonight was no different, or so he thought. After a long day repairing a power conduit that had shorted, Ethan sank into his bed, letting the weight of fatigue press against him. He closed his eyes and imagined the distant forests of Arden 5, with their glowing plants and misty rivers. It was peaceful. Too peaceful, perhaps. A soft shimmer caught the corner of his eye. At first, he thought it was a reflection from the monitor, but then he noticed movement, a small, delicate figure sliding across the floor toward him. His eyes opened wide. "What in the—" Ethan whispered. Before he could even move, the figure leapt onto his bed. It was small, no taller than a child, with soft, fur-like skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Its eyes were large, luminous, and curious, staring at Ethan as if studying him. The most surprising thing, however, was its sudden closeness. It pressed against him gently, curling up next to his chest, and a soft purring sound filled the room. Ethan froze. His heart raced. He had seen alien life on screens and textbooks, even in holo recordings, but nothing like this had ever existed in reality, and yet here it was, warm and soft, nuzzling against him as if it belonged. Hello?" he asked cautiously, keeping his voice low. What are you?" The creature tilted its head, letting out a small trill that sounded almost like a sigh of contentment. Its glowing fur flickered slightly as if responding to Ethan's tone. He noticed that the shimmer seemed to react to his heartbeat, pulsing softly with each thump. Ethan carefully sat up. "Okay, you're not dangerous, right?" The alien blinked slowly and purred again. It was not aggressive, not threatening, just curious, almost like a small child testing the world around it. Ethan's initial fear began to ease. He reached out a hand and the creature nudged it with its tiny snout, leaving a warm, soft vibration in his palm. I guess I'll call you Luma," he said after a pause. "Because you glow." "You're glowing." Luma purred louder at the sound of her name. She stretched, revealing sleek feline-like limbs and a long, flexible tail that twitched with interest. Her ears, or what looked like ears, pivoted independently, listening to every soft sound in the room. Ethan couldn't help but laugh softly. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" For the next hour, Ethan watched Luma explore his room. She climbed onto the desk, sniffed the monitors, and even attempted to mimic some of his gestures. When he reached out, she mirrored his hand movements in a strange, almost intelligent way. Ethan realized quickly that she was smarter than he had assumed. Not just an animal, but something more. Something that could learn. The night wore on. Ethan, exhausted from the day, tried to focus on sleep, but Luma refused to leave. She curled around him, her purring a comforting rhythm against his chest. It was not just warmth she provided. It was calmness, a strange reassurance that made the stress of space and isolation seem distant. He sighed. "All right, I guess we're friends now?" Luma purred again, nestling closer. Ethan felt a connection he couldn't explain. Something about this creature, so far from Earth, so alien, was strikingly familiar in its affection. In the emptiness of the station, she was a living reminder that life and companionship could exist anywhere in the universe. By morning, Ethan had made a decision. He could not tell anyone about Luma yet. The station rules were strict. Any unknown life form must be reported immediately. But he couldn't risk Luma being taken away, studied, or worse, harmed. He needed to understand her first. Over the next few days, Ethan observed her closely. Luma was playful and curious. She followed him around, watching intently as he repaired circuits and calibrated instruments. Sometimes she would bounce onto a panel, tracing his work with tiny, precise movements. Ethan began to notice something remarkable. When she pressed her paws or leaned against certain equipment, the machine seemed to respond better. A power fluctuation would stabilize. A stubborn module would start functioning correctly. "You're helping me?" Ethan asked one evening, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're actually helping." Luma blinked, tail flicking, and purred. Ethan couldn't be certain if she understood his words, but he felt her awareness of him, a bond that was growing stronger by the day. He started leaving little notes for her, simple symbols drawn on paper, and she would nudge or paw at the ones she understood. Ethan also began noticing small details about her physiology. Her skin or fur glowed faintly with patterns that seemed to shift depending on her mood. When she was curious, the glow flickered like soft lightning. When she was calm or content, it radiated warmth. He marveled at the beauty of it, thinking about how life on other worlds could be so both alien and breathtakingly familiar. Then came the first test. One evening, while Ethan was running diagnostics on a critical section of the station's power system, a sudden spike caused several panels to overload. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the emergency lights flashed red. Panic surged through him. Before he could react fully, Luma jumped onto the main console. She pressed her paws and leaned against the equipment, and, astonishingly, the alarm started to quiet. The circuits stabilized. The warning lights dimmed. Ethan stared in disbelief. "Luma, you just saved me," he whispered, voice trembling. How did you know?" She blinked at him, tail swishing lightly, purring louder than ever. Ethan realized then that Luma was not only intelligent but possessed a unique connection to technology, something beyond human comprehension. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. For the rest of the night, Ethan stayed awake, watching her. He felt an unusual combination of awe, curiosity, and pride. In the vast emptiness of space, he had found a friend, an alien life form that seemed fragile yet powerful, delicate yet capable of things no human could do alone. As dawn broke over Arden 5, casting a pale glow across the observation windows, Ethan finally allowed himself to relax. Luma lay curled beside him, her soft purring filling the small room. He ran his hand over her back, marveling at the warmth and the subtle glow beneath her fur. "You're incredible, Luma," he said softly. "I have no idea what tomorrow will bring, but I know this. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." And so the first day of an unusual friendship ended quietly in the small research station, orbiting a distant world. Little did Ethan know Luma's arrival was not just an accident. Something about her presence was meant to change more than just his life. She was a living reminder that humans could meet the universe not just with machines or weapons, but with curiosity, courage, and the heart to understand life in all its forms. For Ethan, the future suddenly seemed a little brighter, and somewhere deep inside, he felt a pride in humanity's ability to connect, adapt, and survive, no matter how strange or far away the stars might be. Days passed quietly on the station, but life had changed for Ethan. The moment Luma entered his room, the routine of his life shifted. Now, even simple tasks were filled with small surprises. She followed him everywhere, leaping gracefully across consoles, curling in his chair when he worked, and occasionally brushing against his leg to remind him she was there. At first, the other crew members were unaware. They were focused on their own duties, monitoring the planet's strange weather patterns, running geological surveys, and keeping the station running smoothly. Ethan made sure Luma stayed out of sight. Yet he found himself talking to her constantly, explaining his work, asking for her opinion, and marveling at how she seemed to understand more than she should. One morning, Ethan was in the lab, repairing a damaged sensor array. Luma perched on the edge of the console, her tail flicking, eyes glowing softly. Every time he soldered a wire, she leaned close as if checking his work. "You know, if you were human, you'd be considered brilliant," Ethan said with a chuckle. "But you're something else entirely." Luma tilted her head, emitting a soft trill. Then, to Ethan's astonishment, the sensor sparked back to life. The display flickered, then stabilized, showing the readings correctly. Ethan froze. "You did that?" he whispered. He leaned closer, examining the wiring, but everything seemed perfectly normal. No shortcuts, no tricks. Yet it worked. Ethan realized that Luma had some kind of natural intuition with technology, a skill humans could only dream of. This new revelation made Ethan both excited and cautious. He began testing her abilities in small ways. Sometimes he would leave a malfunctioning console on purpose and Luma would approach it, pawing at the panel until it started working again. Other times, she would curl beside a device and purr, and the system seemed calmer, more responsive. It wasn't magic. It was something more, something biological and intelligent beyond human understanding. Outside the lab, their bond deepened in smaller ways. Luma had learned the station's routine. She knew when Ethan woke up, when he ate, when he took short breaks in the observation deck. She even started mimicking certain human gestures, stretching like him, tilting her head in curiosity, and nudging objects toward him when she wanted attention. One evening, Ethan leaned against the observation window, staring at the planet below. Arden 5's forests glowed faintly in the night, their bioluminescent trees swaying gently in the alien wind. Luma curled around his shoulders, purring softly. "You know, Luma," Ethan whispered, "you're making this lonely place feel like home. I never thought I'd have a friend like you." She purred louder, pressing her glowing body closer. Ethan could feel the warmth radiating from her, a comfort that no machine, no message from Earth could ever provide. Then came a strange discovery. One afternoon, while Ethan worked on the station's energy shield, he noticed something unusual. Luma seemed to react to certain controls before he even touched them. When he adjusted the power flow, she would twitch her ears or glow brighter, almost like she could sense fluctuations in the system. Curious, Ethan decided to run an experiment. He intentionally set a small console to malfunction and stepped back. Luma approached, touching the panel with her paws. Immediately, the lights flickered and then steadied. The readings normalized. "This is incredible," Ethan murmured. You can sense the energy, not just electricity, something deeper." Over the next few days, he tested her further. She could detect weak points in the station's shielding, warn him when circuits were about to fail, and even identify tiny malfunctions that human sensors missed. Ethan realized that humans alone, with all their technology, might not have survived alone on this station. Luma's abilities made the impossible possible, but their peaceful routine couldn't last forever. One morning, the station's AI began scanning for anomalies and detected Luma. Ethan's stomach twisted in fear. The AI's voice, calm but firm, echoed in the room. "Unidentified life form detected in human quarters. Immediate report required." Ethan froze. No, wait," he said, moving toward the console. But Luma jumped lightly onto his shoulder, her glowing body almost shielding him. She emitted a soft trill, looking at the console as if warning him that time was short. He had a choice: reveal her presence and risk her being taken, or continue hiding her and risk breaking station protocol. Ethan's mind raced. He knew the AI wouldn't lie. It was programmed to protect the station and crew. But he couldn't abandon Luma, not now. "Okay, Luma," he whispered. "We'll be careful. We'll hide. Together." For the next week, Ethan devised clever ways to conceal her. He modified his quarters, creating hidden spaces behind panels and storage compartments. Luma adapted quickly, learning to stay hidden when crew members approached and returning to his side when he was alone. During this time, Ethan also noticed a change in himself. The stress of isolation, the constant pressure of life on a distant station, seemed lighter when Luma was near. Her purring had a calming effect, her warmth easing his fatigue. He slept better, focused better, and even found himself laughing more. One evening, while the station floated silently above Arden 5, Luma did something unexpected. She climbed onto the console and tapped a sequence of buttons that Ethan hadn't touched in weeks. The readings changed, showing a pattern in the planet's energy field he hadn't noticed before. You see things I can't," Ethan said in awe. "You're helping me understand everything." It was true. Luma's presence made him notice patterns, predict fluctuations, and anticipate problems before they happened. She had become more than a companion. She was a partner. And in the vast emptiness of space, having a partner like her was more valuable than any machine, any AI, or any human crew member could be. Their bond was not just practical, it was emotional. Luma followed Ethan everywhere, curling on his lap while he ate, purring softly while he read station logs and occasionally brushing against him in quiet affection. Ethan found himself speaking to her not just about work, but about his life, his dreams, and his fears. She listened. She responded in her own way, glowing brighter when he was happy, nuzzling him when he felt frustrated, and curling close when he felt alone. One day, Ethan caught himself smiling at her antics. She had knocked over a stack of tools, chased her own tail, and then leapt onto his shoulder, glowing brightly as if to say, "Look, aren't I clever?" "You are clever," Ethan laughed. "And brilliant. And maybe the best friend I've ever had." But Luma's presence also raised questions he couldn't ignore. Where had she come from? Why did she have these abilities? And most importantly, was she alone? He had not seen another of her kind, and he wondered if her arrival was an accident or if there was more to the universe than humans had ever imagined. The answers were not yet clear, but Ethan felt a quiet determination growing inside him. He would protect Luma, learn from her, and understand the mysteries she carried. And as he sat in the observation deck one evening, watching the glowing forests of Arden 5 below, he realized that life on this station had changed forever. He was no longer just a human engineer in a lonely orbit. He was a partner to an alien life form, learning lessons that no human academy could teach. He was part of a new kind of team, one that combined human ingenuity with alien intuition, bravery with curiosity, and logic with heart. And in the quiet hum of the station, Luma purred softly beside him, her glowing body a reminder that the universe was full of surprises, waiting for those brave enough to reach out. Ethan smiled, brushing a hand over her fur. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, Luma. But I know this. We'll face it together. No matter what, we'll find a way." Luma purred louder, tail curling around his arm. For the first time in weeks, Ethan felt truly at peace. He had a friend, a partner, and a reminder that humans could thrive even in the most alien of places. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges. But tonight they rested, together. The station had been quiet for days, almost unnaturally so. Ethan had grown accustomed to the rhythm of life with Luma. Every system check, every repair, every simple walk to the observation deck was now accompanied by the gentle glow and soft purring of his unusual companion. Yet something in the back of his mind was uneasy. The universe rarely allowed peace for long. It started with a faint warning from the station's sensors. At first, Ethan thought it was just a glitch, a minor spike in the energy readings around the station. But as the day progressed, the readings grew more pronounced, indicating a massive object approaching the station at high speed. The AI's voice echoed calmly through the corridors. "Unidentified object detected on collision course. Probability of interference with station systems. High." Ethan's heart raced. "Show me the readings," he said, hurrying to the main console. Luma followed closely, tail swishing nervously. On the display, a dark moving shape approached Arden 5's orbit. It wasn't a ship. Ethan could tell that much, but it seemed alive in a way that technology shouldn't be. The object radiated a strange energy that interfered with the station's shields and power grids. Luma's ears twitched, her body glowing brighter than usual. She emitted a low trill, pacing in front of the console. Ethan realized immediately that she sensed something he couldn't detect. "You know what that is?" he asked softly, his voice tense. Luma responded by pressing her paws against the console, her glow pulsing in synchronization with the energy readings. It was as if she could feel the threat through the station itself. Ethan had no time to wonder. The object, or whatever it was, struck the outer shield of the station first. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and the floor vibrated under their feet. Crew members scrambled to their stations, shouting instructions and trying to stabilize the systems. Ethan took a deep breath. "Lumatin, we need to help. Are you ready?" The alien creature responded with a trill, and before Ethan could blink, she leapt onto the central console, placing her paws on several panels at once. The alarms began to quiet, and the power fluctuations stabilized slightly. Ethan's jaw dropped. You're incredible," he whispered. "You can feel its attacks before they happen." It became immediately clear that this was no ordinary threat. The approaching object was not a ship or probe in the traditional sense. It was alive in ways humans had never seen, almost like a predator hunting its prey. The station's shields alone could not withstand repeated hits, and without Luma's intervention, the energy surges would have caused critical failure. "Ethan!" a voice shouted over the comms. One of the senior engineers, Maria, appeared in the lab, eyes wide with concern. "What's going on?" The AI says the outer shield is failing. Ethan glanced at Luma. She was glowing even more intensely, ears pivoting rapidly. She can help, he said quickly. Trust me. Maria's eyes flicked between Ethan and the alien creature. Is that Depet? Not exactly, Ethan said, trying to stay calm. She's more, just trust me. She knows what she's doing. The next moments were a blur of activity. The object struck again, sending jolts through the station. Lights dimmed and flickered. Consoles sparked, and the hum of machinery became chaotic. Luma moved quickly, her paws pressing panels, tail flicking across touchscreens. Energy that had seemed unstable moments before now steadied. And systems began responding normally. Ethan worked alongside her, rerouting power and sealing weak points, amazed at how she anticipated each surge. Together they formed a rhythm, human ingenuity paired with alien instinct. Hours passed in tense coordination. Every strike from the approaching object sent tremors through the station. But with Luma's guidance, Ethan was able to predict the attacks and reinforce vulnerable areas. Crew members began to notice the difference. They watched in awe as this small, glowing creature moved with purpose, keeping the station alive while humans scrambled to respond. By late evening, the object had circled the station twice, striking intermittently. Ethan realized that its energy patterns were not random. It was testing the station, probing for weaknesses. Luma sensed it immediately, leaping from console to console, placing herself in precise positions to counteract the energy pulses. You're reading it like a book, Ethan said, voice filled with admiration. I can't do this alone. I never could. For the first time, he truly understood the value of cooperation across worlds. The universe was dangerous, full of threats that no human or machine could face alone, and yet together they could survive. Humanity's strength wasn't in technology alone. It was in courage, intelligence, and the ability to adapt and learn from others, even beings from distant planets, finally. After what felt like an eternity, the object retreated. Its energy weakened as it moved away from the station, and the alarm subsided. Crew members sighed in relief, some collapsing into chairs, others hugging each other quietly. Ethan, however, focused on Luma, who now lay curled on the console, purring softly, her glow dimming to a calm rhythm. You did it, he whispered, kneeling beside her. You saved us all. Maria approached slowly, her eyes wide with awe. I don't understand, she said. That creature, she saved the station. How is that possible? Ethan smiled faintly, brushing a hand over Luma's glowing fur. Maybe it's not about how. Maybe it's about connection. She understood the station. She knew the rhythm of it. And together, we worked as a team. The following day was filled with repairs. The station's shields had taken minor damage, and some power conduits needed replacing. But Ethan noticed a subtle shift in the crew's attitude. No longer were they skeptical of Luma. They watched her move, assisted her when needed, and began to treat her as a valued member of the team. Even the station AI seemed to adapt, recognizing her as a unique entity. It flagged her presence as ally rather than unknown life form, a small but significant change that Ethan appreciated. As they worked, Ethan reflected on what had happened. The universe was vast and full of unknown dangers. Humans had always relied on tools, weapons, and technology to survive. Yet here was proof that adaptability, empathy, and intelligence, no matter the form, were equally powerful. He looked down at Luma, her soft purring a steady rhythm against the chaos of their recent ordeal. We make a good team, you and I, he said softly. Better than I ever imagined. For Luma, the day had been thrilling. She had learned quickly how to sense danger, how to react with precision, and how to protect the humans she had come to trust. Her bond with Ethan was stronger than ever, and she understood something he did not yet fully realize. They were not just partners, they were a unit, capable of facing anything together. As the stars of Arden 5 shimmered outside the observation windows that night, Ethan sat quietly with Luma curled against him. The events of the day weighed heavily on his mind, but he also felt pride. Humanity had survived not because of weapons or machines, but because one human and one alien had trusted each other and worked together. I wonder, Ethan whispered, looking at the distant planet below, what else is out there? And how many more friends like you might exist in the universe? Luma purred in response, her glowing body pressing closer to his. In that moment, Ethan knew one thing for certain. No matter what threats the cosmos held, humans had something the universe could not ignore: their courage, their heart, and their ability to connect with life in all its forms. And for the first time, Ethan felt truly ready for whatever would come next. The universe was full of danger, yes, but also full of opportunity. And with Luma at his side, he was confident that humanity could not just survive but thrive, even in the most alien and unexpected circumstances. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt peace. Peace that came from trust, understanding, and the unspoken bond between human and alien. And in the quiet hum of the space station, Luma purred softly, a gentle reminder that even in the cold expanse of space, life, friendship, courage, and hope could always shine bright. The station was quiet the next morning, but the tension of the previous days still hung in the air. Crew members moved carefully through the corridors, repairing minor damage from the energy attacks, checking systems, and quietly whispering about the strange alien that had saved them. Luma slept curled beside Ethan, her soft glow dim but steady, her purring a gentle rhythm that filled the small quarters. Ethan sat at the console, reviewing logs and recalibrating systems. Despite the relief, he couldn't shake the thought that the universe had tested them, and humans had passed. Not because of sheer technology or strength, but because they had courage, intelligence, and compassion. And most importantly, because humans could trust and work alongside beings from other worlds. The door hissed open and Maria stepped in, her expression a mixture of awe and curiosity. "Ethan, the rest of the crew wants to see her," she said softly. "They want to thank her properly." Ethan hesitated. Luma was still just a creature to them, an unknown life form, but he realized it was time. "All right," he said, standing carefully. "Just be gentle. She's not used to a crowd." The lab filled slowly with crew members. They had seen her in action during the attacks, but never this close. Luma stirred, blinking her luminous eyes at the approaching humans. Some stepped back nervously, but others smiled, drawn by her gentle presence. "Is it safe?" one engineer asked. Ethan smiled. "She's already saved this station. I trust her completely." Luma tilted her head, letting out a soft trill. The crew watched, captivated as she moved gracefully around the room, sniffing the consoles and observing each person. Slowly, the fear turned into wonder. She was not dangerous. She was extraordinary. The station commander, Captain Reyes, stepped forward. He had observed the situation from the control deck, analyzing the logs and sensor data. "Ethan," he said, his voice steady, "I reviewed the incident reports. That creature saved us. Without her, we would have lost critical systems and possibly lives. She has earned our trust and gratitude." Ethan's chest swelled with pride. "I told you," he said softly. "She's more than a pet. She's a partner. She understands things humans cannot." Captain Reyes nodded. "From this moment, Luma will be recognized as a member of this crew. Her abilities, intelligence, and instincts are invaluable. And Ethan, you've done a remarkable job earning her trust and showing the rest of us the value of working together." Luma purred softly, brushing against Ethan's leg as if acknowledging the recognition. For a creature that had arrived without warning, she had quickly become the heart of the station. The crew began to adapt, learning her signals, understanding her moods, and even noticing the ways her presence improved their work. Repairs went faster, stress levels dropped, and the overall efficiency of the station increased. Ethan watched quietly, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Humanity had survived the threat not just because of weapons or technology, but because of human qualities, empathy, trust, and courage, combined with the unique abilities of an alien ally. Luma's arrival had been unexpected, but it had proven that humans could thrive even in the most unfamiliar environments. Over the following days, Ethan worked with Luma and the crew to strengthen the station further. He mapped out new routines that incorporated her abilities. allowing her to interact with systems safely while still maintaining her freedom. Crew members grew to respect her instincts, often seeking her opinion before performing critical tasks. One evening, after a long day of repairs, Ethan sat with Luma in the observation deck. The stars of Arden 5 stretched endlessly outside, glowing softly in the darkness. Luma curled beside him, her soft purring filling the room. "You know, Luma," Ethan said quietly, "I think we've changed things here. The station, the crew, even me. We've learned that humans are more than machines, more than programs and schedules. We can adapt, connect, and survive even with beings from other worlds." Luma blinked, tail curling around his arm as if she understood every word. Ethan smiled, running his hand gently over her glowing fur. In that moment, he realized that humanity's true strength was not just intelligence or technology. It was heart. The courage to face danger, the curiosity to explore the unknown, and the willingness to trust and work with others, no matter how alien they might be. The following week brought a sense of normalcy. The station systems were fully repaired, and the crew had adjusted to having Luma as part of their team. She moved freely, sometimes napping in the observation deck, sometimes assisting in the lab, always curious, always alert. Her bond with Ethan remained strong, a reminder that friendship and trust could cross even the widest gaps between species. Ethan reflected on the lessons he had learned. Luma had shown him that the universe was not just a place of danger, it was a place of opportunity. Humans could thrive not just by building machines or weapons, but by embracing life in all its forms and learning to work together. One afternoon, a new sensor alert appeared. This time, it was not a threat but a signal, a faint transmission from a nearby asteroid belt. Ethan analyzed it, curious, and realized it was a form of communication he could not fully understand. He looked at Luma, who blinked at the console, tail flicking in interest. Together, they worked to decipher the signal, combining human logic with her alien instincts. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. This could be a first contact scenario, Ethan whispered, awe in his voice. "And we're ready, because we've learned something important. Humans can face the universe, not just with technology, but with courage, heart, and trust." Luma purred softly, nudging his hand. Ethan laughed quietly. "Yes, I know, and we'll do it together." As night fell over Arden 5, the station glowed faintly against the darkness of space. Ethan watched the stars, feeling a profound sense of pride in humanity's potential. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, not just in combat or exploration, but in understanding, connecting, and protecting life in all its forms. Luma nestled closer, her soft glow reflecting in Ethan's eyes. Together they had faced danger, overcome fear, and discovered the true strength of partnership. And in the quiet hum of the station, Ethan felt a certainty he had never known before. No matter what challenges the universe would throw at them, humanity, and their willingness to adapt, learn, and trust, would shine brightly. Captain Reyes entered the observation deck, nodding at Ethan and Luma. "You've both done remarkably well. The station is stronger, the crew is safer, and we've all learned a valuable lesson about cooperation and about courage." Ethan smiled. "It wasn't just me, it was Luma, and all of us together. Humans survive because we care, because we trust, and because we're willing to work with life, even when it's completely unfamiliar." Luma purred, curling against Ethan once more. In that moment, it was clear to everyone in the room. The future of humanity was not just about strength or technology. It was about heart, partnership, and the courage to face the unknown with hope. As the station floated silently in orbit, Ethan looked at Luma and whispered, "Whatever comes next, we'll face it. Together." And for the first time in a long while, he felt the vast universe not as a threat, but as a place full of possibilities, where humans could thrive, survive, and shine among the stars. Because in the end, the true power of humanity lay not in machines or weapons, but in the ability to connect, to trust, and to rise to any challenge. even when it came from the farthest corners of space. Luma purred softly beside him, glowing faintly, a living reminder that life, courage, and friendship could always guide the way, even in the coldest, darkest reaches of the cosmos. Ethan smiled, reaching out to brush her fur. "We've done well, Luma. The universe is wide, but humans, we are ready." And with that, the station hummed quietly. The stars twinkled endlessly, and a new chapter for humanity and its alien ally had begun.